Guys, welcome back. In the last session, we have worked on the transaction service and we have created a method called fund transfer, which will be accepting the sender account number, beneficiary account number, and the amount which you want to transfer from sender account number to beneficiary account number. Okay. So in this session, what we will be doing is we will be creating a transaction controller class. Okay. Which will be reading all these details and it is calling this fund transfer method to debit and credit the amount into the respective sender and the beneficiary account numbers. Let's go and create the controller class. Click on controller package, go to the new, click on Java class. Here I'll be creating the transaction controller is the class. Okay. I'll code this transaction controller with the trust controller annotation. So I'll be using a trust controller annotation to make this as the one of the controller. Okay. And it should be written in the response as a JSON format. Okay. So now I want to give the starting endpoint actually URI. So the request, whatever the request you're sending, it should come first to the this requested URI transaction -services /version 1. Okay, under this transaction controller, we will be adding a method called a transfer method, which will be taking the sender account number, receiver account number. We will be reading these values from the postman. Okay, likewise, like this, we are sending the values. So as I'm sending the values as part of the parameters, I'll be using a request param annotation to read those values. And I'll be using request param annotation. Okay, so in double quotes, I'll write long sender account number. And let me copy this one. Just paste it over here. And next we have request param, and we'll be having the beneficiary account number. Okay, let me copy the same name. Okay, beneficiary account number, and we will be using the same name over here as well. Okay, let's maximize the screen. Okay, and we need to read the amount as well, right? So I'll be using request param. So amount is the one which is a type of double actually. Okay, so the type of double. Open the braces. Inside this, we will be writing a logic to invoke transfer funds method of transaction service. What we have to do now? So we need to inject the transaction service first. So transaction service we are injected. So now I want the Spring Boot container to give this transaction object. Okay, at runtime. So I'll be using auto void so that the Spring Boot will be automatically creating an object of transaction services and will be giving to me. Okay, so now I'll be using the transaction services. I'll be making a call to the fund transfer method. This fund transfer method is accepting three parameters. One is sender account number, beneficiary account number, and the amount itself. And this particular fund transfer method will be returning what? Will be returning transaction. Okay, let's quickly give this details: sender account number and beneficiary account number. Beneficiary account number. Let me copy this one. Beneficiary account number, and we will be giving the amount as well. So here we need to give long beneficiary. I forgot that. Okay, so long beneficiary, and this particular method will be returning the transaction. So let me return type as a transaction. This method, after processing the request, this particular method will be returning the transaction. So let me import this transaction. Okay, so we have imported the transaction. The next, what we have to do is we have to check if this transaction is successful. We will be getting the transaction object details. Okay, if it is not successful, we will be getting some kind of exception. Okay, so I'll be checking is if transaction is not equals to null, then what you have to do, you have to write a small string actually. So you'll be saying something like this: return response entity dot okay, and here you will be writing transaction is successfully completed. Okay, so if not, what we'll do is we will be throwing an exception. We'll say return response entity dot let's say internal server error, and the body will be writing transaction is not successful. Transaction is not successfully completed. Okay, so here this would be returning response entity. And this is a public method. And I will be this is a like as it is like modifying the account in your and it is modifying the balance in your account. So we'll be giving it as a post request. Okay. So we'll be sending a post request. So the post mapping will be using annotation called post mapping, and here we'll be giving the endpoint here as transfer. Okay, transfer. Okay. So this is the transaction controller class. Let's see if we are missing anything. We have created transaction controller class. We have injected the transaction service, and we are like invoking the fund transfer method using the transaction service and the between transaction. And we are checking whether the transaction is null or not. If it is not, we will saying that transaction is successfully completed. If it is, we will be saying that internal server error, transaction is not successfully completed. Or we can say that transaction is not successful. That's it. Transaction is not successful. That's what I think that's all from this session. In the next session, we will be discussing on like how we can test this transaction service using the Postman. Until then, thank you for watching.